this morning. My name is Jackson Lloyd. I'm a local personal trainer. I work for myself. I'm not affiliated with any gym around here. If at any point I'm not speaking loud enough, please just raise your hand and tell me so. I'm trying to leave plenty of time at the end for lots of questions. I think, we got a lot of good personal questions and very specific questions in last time, so I'm looking forward to doing the same. Today we're going to be talking about nutrition. We're going to be talking about kind of understanding the basics of nutrition. Hopefully I can do a little bit of myth busting for you, because I know if we're on the internet and we're looking at what everybody is saying about nutrition, there's a lot of confusing and conflicting stuff out there. I'm just going to get into the basics and then answer as many questions as I can, if there's confusion about one topic or another, and then talk about, okay, how do those basics change as we age? How do we adjust things as we age for the needs that we have? So we're going to get right into it. Whenever I talk about nutrition, I give this disclaimer, which is I'm not a physician. And I'm going to slide over to this side. Many questions, especially specific questions to, what vitamins and minerals do I need for XYZ, require a consultation with your physician, probably require blood work because they are specific to you and your diet, specific to what vitamins and minerals you have going on. So I say, consult with your physician directly. If you have a specific question about, okay, should I be taking this supplement, this vitamin, this mineral? I try and give that, I'll give you some recommendations on what things are helpful, but may not be specific to you, okay? So that's my disclaimer at the start of this. And if it falls under this specific question, please feel free to ask the questions. I'll just tell you, hey, that's a physician question, not a question for me. So I want to make sure I stay fully out of that scope. I like to start this talk off with just a sample. When I'm giving my talk on exercise, people like a sample exercise routine. This is just a sample breakfast. It's something that I ate while I was making this slideshow. So almost exactly what I ate. So this is 600 calories, 48 grams of protein, half cup of plain Greek yogurt, half cup of blackberries or your berry of choice, essentially. Tablespoon of honey, third cup of granola, 3 slices of turkey bacon, and a protein shake. Okay. Protein shake is going to change depending on what brand you get, but for the most part, you have a lot of whole foods involved in this, and it's a great way to start your day with a lot of protein and a good amount of fiber. So if your berries are blackberries or raspberries, you're going to start with quite a bit of fiber for the day. So you're welcome to write that down, take a picture of it if you want. If you want to come back to it later on, if you want a picture of it, let me know. So we'll talk about the different types of macronutrients. So macronutrients is just essentially the 4 main things that our body needs that we need to consume. And that's your proteins, your carbs, your fats, and actually water is one of those. We are made of mostly water. Some people negate that sometimes and forget to talk about that. So your proteins are your body's building block. It's what we use to make every type of tissue that we have. It is particularly helpful for our muscles, our ligaments, and our bones. So it's really the thing that holds us together is protein. Carbs are going to be used for energy. So if we're moving, we're doing a lot of physical activity, also for brain function. So if we are low on carbs, if you've ever been hungry, your brain doesn't really work as well as you'd like it to be. That's why people get hangry, is, you're getting irritable, you're not able to think straight, and so that's part of why we want carbs. Fats are for the physical systems of our nervous system, so our brain, our spinal cord, our nerves, the things that help us do everything that we need, our nervous system, that they supply, they're responsible for building those tissues. So, and then obviously water. I like to say, you have hydration, but also if we are poorly hydrated, a lot of people get aches and pains that can actually be resolved with just proper hydration, because you have what I refer to as tissue friction. So if you think of like dry materials moving back and forth over one another, that's our muscles if we're chronically poorly hydrated, right? If you think of lubricated things moving over one another, that's what our muscles and joints are like when we're properly hydrated. And so hydration is something I bring to people's mind if chronic pain is, or chronic joint pain specifically, is something that they struggle with. Any questions on anything I've talked about so far? And we're just going over the basics. So, protein is king. Protein is, I rant over and over and over again on the importance of getting adequate protein in your diet. It helps with both muscle building and weight loss, and this is kind of counterintuitive sometimes if we're just thinking about, oh, I need to eat more of a thing to lose weight, sometimes. It helps you feel fuller. We know that eating more protein is going to help you fill up. It has what we call the highest thermic effect of food. So I'm going to stop there for a second. The thermic effect of food, essentially our body burns calories when we consume food. It's the energy our body requires to break down food into usable energy, usable molecules. And it is harder for our body to break down protein. It takes it longer. It's a less efficient process. And so as a result, our body core temperature actually rises and we burn calories more so when consuming protein. So the thermic effect of food is just the increase in temperature and the increase in calorie burning that happens when we eat. Particularly, this is more potent with protein, okay? It helps maintain muscle mass with weight loss. So with any degree of weight loss, there's this thought that, oh, I can maintain or I can build muscle and lose weight at the same time. It's usually not possible. There's very, very rare instances where this is possible. Now, you can reveal muscle through losing fat, but when we are losing weight, in any case, we're going to lose a little bit of one thing, either muscle or fat, and a larger portion of the other. If we're starving ourselves with protein, we're going to lose a lot of our muscle mass. So that's why it's important if you're in a weight loss phase, if you're looking to lose weight, you want to make sure you're getting an adequate amount of protein. And I'll talk about just what is adequate momentarily. And so that's what we know is even if we're not exercising, our body maintains more muscle mass if we're getting an adequate amount of protein, if we're in a calorie deficit and losing weight, okay? So, any clarification needed on that point? Excellent. The other thing, so I talked about protein, improving and being responsible for our muscle health, our joint health, our ligament health. It's going to improve your joint health and your bone density. So bone density is something that I'm very passionate about talking about. And this is where a lot of people, I think, miss the mark or don't quite, serve themselves as well as they could in, if we're not getting an adequate amount of protein, we're not giving ourselves the building blocks our body needs to build strong bones, okay? And so we have to think about that, and we're gonna say, hey, if I want strong bones, yes, the calcium and the vitamin D and the iron is important, but the protein is just as important, okay? And the amount of protein, so this is where most people miss this mark, and I talk with clients every day, and I've never had a client come to me already eating an adequate amount of protein. I've been working in this field for almost 6 years now. Never had somebody coming eating the minimum of what is ideal. So the minimum of what is ideal is 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. So if I weighed 100 pounds, the minimum would be 70 grams of protein in a day, okay? I say you can go up to 1.1 and still be kind of at that, minimum or in that lower tier. The top out, if you do want to know in terms of what is considered safe, is about 2.2 grams of protein per day. So if I weighed 100 pounds, I would want 220. And that's the absolute max of what would be helpful amounts of protein. You go over that, that's when we're considering some kidney issues beyond that. So if you already have issues with kidneys, I would say staying in the 0.7 to 1 range is a much better ideal. So. Maybe go forward here. Okay. Really, when building an ideal diet or what you're eating in a general week, what I like to do is start with my emphasis on protein, and then move from there. So I'm going to get my protein first, then I might get my vegetable or fruit. I like to have either a fruit or a vegetable with every meal. That's a good way to make sure that we're getting our vitamins that we need and our carbs, because both of those are going to give you your carbs as well, fruits and vegetables. And then from there, most people are going to cook their meats with enough fat to give them the minimum that they need. In my experience, most people are going to chronic, especially with the groceries that we have available to us. Most people are going to chronically overeat fat. So I usually don't talk much about getting enough. It's more about the opposite. Hey, how can we reduce those? And really, that's why I say, hey, we want to focus on protein first, then build, fruit or veggie in with that. And then whatever you pair it with beyond that. Usually most people are full enough if they're getting adequate protein, getting the fruits and veggies. They're not going to overeat anything else. It's very rare if those things are focused on well. It's very rare to see too much of the others. So I'm going to talk about micronutrients. So these are your vitamins and your minerals, right? They're micronutrients just because they're not just the building blocks for everything like protein, like carbs, like fats, but they do play a role in our health. And I'm just going to talk about some of them. There's a list, a mile long of all of them. Talk about some of them that I see, that are going to help, especially as we age, right? So iron is one that is going to help with energy. Iron plays a role in the way that our blood is transported throughout our body. If we don't have enough iron in our diet, we're probably not going to have enough oxygen delivered to our tissues, and therefore, it can cause pain, it can cause reduced energy availability, and as a result of that lack of oxygen, things aren't built properly in our body. And there's this thing called turnover, bone turnover, where our body constantly is breaking bones down and then building them back up. It's a system constantly happening. And so if we're breaking things down, but we don't have the building blocks, the energy available to build them back up, that can cause some issues with our health there. Vitamin D, this one's gotten a lot more talk recently, especially in light of the recent pandemic. Something that we noticed a lot of people who struggled when it came to the pandemic and struggled when it came to the symptoms of, how severe were symptoms. Many of them were lacking in, a large portion of people were lacking in vitamin D. So we say, okay, if people have adequate vitamin D, there's no causation right now that we have direct cause, but there is a correlation with, hey, you handle illnesses better if you have it, because your immune system seems to function better. Vitamin B3 and B6 also help with immunity, but play a larger role in nervous system support. So I'll tell a little story here. When I first got into, or before I got into fitness, I was in sports medicine. So I worked with ice hockey players, and we saw a lot of concussions, right? A lot of brain injuries, mild, but repetitive. And so one of the ways you can get vitamins B3 and B6 is through fish. Taking in salmon, cod, all sorts of types of fish. Salmon is probably your most potent source. There are others, but that was one of the things we had them do, is increase the amount of fish in their diet post brain injury. So if you're somebody who's experienced maybe a mild stroke or a major one, this is something that can help improve your recovery, is increasing your amount of B3s and B6s. Fish oil will do, if you're on a fish oil pill, it will do something similar. But as always, and I'll say this when I talk about supplements in the next slide, if you can get those vitamins and minerals through your diet rather than through supplements, your body absorbs them and seems to utilize them better. So calcium, I talked briefly about this. Calcium is going to be a massive help when it comes to improving and maintaining your bone health. One of the things I think people don't realize is it also helps with muscle function. So you need calcium in your body for your muscles to even move, for them to contract. If we don't have enough calcium, if we're not making sure that we're getting active, or we're actively improving the amount of calcium in our body, we can have less ability to utilize our muscles well. So it can weaken us just because those calcium molecules are not, those ions are not in our muscles. We're not able to contract as much, as well, as efficiently. So, magnesium can help with improving our sleep. This is one where magnesium can be overdosed. So you do, unless you know exactly how much to take, I wouldn't mess around with more than a small dose of a supplement, or consult with your doctor.
What's a small dose?
What's that?
What's a small dose?
Usually the supplemental dosage, I want to say it's no more than 10 milligrams, but I could be wrong. So whatever, usually on the supplement, a magnesium supplement, whatever I always say, if you're concerned and you don't know your blood work numbers, make sure you're going with whatever the child's version is, because usually these companies will overdilate, over dilute. That's the wrong word. They will put too much in there just so that you absorb enough, and that's what I don't want people to do. So,
are there good foods for magnesium, or do you know any off the top of your head?
Yeah, so you can get some good magnesium from fish, seeds, and lentils. In general, magnesium is also going to be, you're going to get it from a lot of the same things you're getting iron from. So sometimes red meat will have magnesium in it. Sometimes like dark leafy greens like spinach and kale are going to have them in it. There's, off the top of my head, this is not one I advise on often, so I would have to go do some research on. But that's just an example of some that contain magnesium naturally. Zinc is another one that can improve the immune system. So zinc is another one that I think many people supplement with zinc in order to make sure their immune health stays at a high level. And that's another one that has gotten more recent popularity. Post-pandemic, people are using that more recently. So again, this is one. The vitamins and minerals especially are ones that I don't do a whole lot of specific advising on, because it requires knowing what your blood work numbers are on these levels and having conversations with either a registered dietitian or your doctor to say, hey, these are the measures that you should take, the specific actions you should take. So, but any questions about the general applications of those? Yeah, so a brief conversation on supplementation, and then I think after this we'll get into specific questions that you guys have. So for most people, a daily multivitamin is, because of, I'll just say like the North American diet that we've adopted kind of as a culture, a daily multivitamin is not a bad idea for most people. Unless you have been told by your doctor that you personally should not take one, I recommend talking to your doctor about finding one that would be suitable for you. I also recommend protein powders. So protein powders, in general, it can be hard for people to reach that milestone of even just that first one of 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight. It can be hard to consistently have a diet that gets to that level. And so a protein powder is a quick way to get there. Most of them are going to be somewhere in the 25 to 30 grams. And so that gets you, if you weigh 100 pounds, that gets you a third of the way to what you're looking for. If not, obviously I think most of us are probably above that. It gets you a good chunk of the way to that goal or that target. One that I think is under recommended, but very, very effective, very safe, is the use of creatine. So you might have heard about it, you may not have. Creatine is essentially, comes in a white powder, and it helps us with our muscle energy, but what we're finding out is it also helps with brain function later in life, and so it also helps with sleep deprivation. So as a parent of a 1-year-old, a 14-month-old, and somebody who works an overnight shift once a week, I supplement with creatine myself to make sure that my cognitive functions still operate well. And we're finding out, the research is coming out saying more and more that it's not only safe but very effective I think there's studies being done at the moment on people with dementia, people with memory issues that are being improved by the use of creatine in a regular diet. So, then I say others as prescribed. When it comes to supplements, so whether that's vitamins, protein powders, creatine, any other supplements, one thing, you may know this, you may not, one thing that I always say is company reputation is everything. When looking at a supplement container, what you want to look for is a symbol that says this company has been third-party checked, has been, there's going to be a symbol and it will say that on the bottle or the container. Because the FDA does not regulate the supplement industry. They regulate foods, but not supplements. So multivitamins are going to fall under that supplement category. That's why you want to look for one of those symbols, one of those seals, that will tell you, hey, this has been checked by a third party for other substances that may have been tampered with, may have something additionally in it. Because in this particularly, what happened in the 2000s and the 90s, that companies figured out, that, hey, we can put whatever we want in these to make them really effective. So they were putting amphetamines in your pre-workout. So you had people who were dying, essentially, because they had meth in their pre-workout. So that's, again, not to scare you, but it is to say you want to look for those seals. Nature Made is one of those companies that has been third-party, all of their stuff is third-party regulated. Anything you find in the GNC, they actually won a class action lawsuit recently against people who were saying that their stuff was not tested, and it was. So anything you find in a GNC has been tested and is exactly what it says on the bottle. And I think as of now, those are the. So I work with a company called Thorn. That's Thorn with an E on the end. That I get free shipping on the products that I get from them. And they're a company they're fully tested, and everything is exactly what they say it is. So that is, whenever considering a supplement, a vitamin, any sort of thing that you're taking in addition to your food, make sure that is it a good company, and has it been third party checked? So you're looking for those seals. Yes.
Well, a big brand out there, because I do nature-based stuff.
Okay.
Other one, Centrum, is that?
Yes. So Centrum, which does mostly multivitamins.
They do, and then they do senior multivitamins.
Yes.
And are they approved? Have they?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have to look for that label.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to look it up and look at it with you afterwards if you'd like. Yeah, if that's something that you take, yeah, I'm happy to look that up with you before we leave,
Okay.
if you'd like.
Thank you.
Yes. So, any other questions about supplements?
Are there any specific protein powder companies that you recommend? Because I know that's a huge market.
Yeah. So that's one that usually the company doesn't matter a whole lot.
Okay.
Because it's been so standardized. When it comes to protein, it's hard to contaminate it with much that is still safe and effective. Yeah, I like Thorn. GNC does a whole lot of deals on their different protein powders, and they have a lot of variety. So I like heading in there and just checking out what they have. I'm currently using something that they sold, and it was like I got 3 bottles for the price of 1.
Have you been to the Healthy Habits place in Waynesboro? It's over by the CVS
I've not.
on Broad Street.
Okay.
Because they have all supposedly organic and.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good place worth stopping by. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Cool. All right, so just some general principles that I think it's good for everybody to understand. So your supplements are meant, I think I said this before, your supplements are meant to supplement. That's why they got the name. Your food should provide most of your nutrients if you can help it. That being said, many people find supplements helpful, including myself. Your body's going to utilize what we get from our food better than what we get from our supplements, percentage-wise. And so that's something that is important to recognize. If appetite is low and you need more protein, so oftentimes when I'm working with people who are in their 80s or beyond, appetite is something that is challenging. It's challenging. They don't feel like they want to eat as much. And so that's when we want to, it's better to drink. It's easier to drink your protein sometimes than it is to eat it because the chewing, and the active energy that we have to put into eating something like a steak is a whole lot more than eating something like a protein shake. And so it's a lot more tolerable. And we digest it quicker. So it goes through our full digestive system quicker if it's in liquid form. And so we don't feel as full. We're able to eat more throughout the day. Which at this stage, for most people, the goal is to maintain or build muscle rather than to lose, for most people. Did I miss a question here?
Oh, no.
That's all right. Okay, perfect. When in doubt, eat more protein. I kind of gave you those ranges. I've never seen anybody hit, except for I've got a couple of clients that I've had for a long time who are strongman competitors now. They're the only ones I've ever seen hit a top mark on protein. So if you're questioning, do I need more protein? The answer is probably yes. Probably. I would love to have somebody come to me and show me, hey, this is how much protein I'm eating, and it's either adequate or optimal. So if you know somebody, An easy way to think of it is aim for 40 grams of protein and 1 serving of fruits and veggies with each meal. So that's, I kind of said that before, the general principle. If you abide by that, you're going to do pretty well. Even better if you abide by that principle and there's variety. So it's fine if you eat the same meal, over and over again, but you're probably not going to get all of the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals that you need. And so more variety, especially in color, when it comes to our foods, is going to help. So there you go. That's my next point. See, I'm talking about it without even knowing. Eating the rainbow to get your vitamins and minerals. I think there was some advertisements that came out from the FDA or sponsored by the FDA talking about eating the rainbow, and it's a very good point. You're probably, if you're eating a variety of colors, you're probably going to have the variety of colored fruits and vegetables. You're probably going to have the vitamins and minerals that you need. So how things change as we age. So we talked about, hey, these are our general principles. Let's talk about how do things change. So I say more protein is required as we age, and it might be counterintuitive, but the reason is our gut gets all the things, the processes in our body that absorb those foods into our body get less efficient as we age. That's why we have to push fiber a little bit more as we age, because our digestion system doesn't work as efficiently. And so, many people who are getting into that stage of life, they're finding, hey, I have to supplement with fiber because I'm not going to the bathroom like I need to. Well, this also affects, the protein absorption, the micro and macronutrient absorption in our gut, and so more protein is required. It's also required more by the body because our body doesn't build muscle as efficiently. It's much more in a state of reducing muscle. And one thing I'm gonna stop here for a moment, and I want to talk about building muscle in your 70s and 80s. It is possible. When people talk about, hey, you will lose X percent of your muscle, your bone mass, as you hit, every year after whatever it is, 35 for men and 28 for women or whatever it might be. That doesn't mean that it's not possible to put on muscle at that stage. What it means is if you are somebody who has optimized your muscle mass by that age, optimized your body's ability to build muscle. I'll give you a great example. Someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to lose muscle mass for the rest of his life. There's no way that he can build muscle because he's built all of it that's possible. It's actually superhuman possible because he's used, anabolic steroids and that sort of thing. So, and he's open about that at this stage. Not while he was competing, of course, but. And so, if you're somebody who, maybe you're new to exercise, you're new to muscle building in your 60s and your 70s, yes, you can build muscle because you haven't optimized your body's ability to do that at that stage. Okay? So that's something. It's a little bit of a mindset shift. It's possible, and I've done it with clients. I've seen it done with people who hit 70, hit 80, and actually improve their muscle mass. So, but it is harder, because you're working against time. You're working against your body's natural processes, and it's harder to be active. Our body does better when it's active. Increased need for vitamins and minerals. Again, I'm going to talk about bone health all day long. Calcium, iron, magnesium, vitamins C, D, and K. If we're not getting, adequate amounts of all 6 of those, our bone health can suffer. So, and if we were to fall, and that's why, I'm passionate about fall prevention. I wrote an article. Grab a copy of Aging in Augusta as you're upstairs. There's a nice fall prevention article in there. But you want good bone health because falls happen, right? Things happen, accidents happen. And if bone health isn't there, it can really put you in a bad spot. So, focus is obviously more on muscle mass maintenance and building than appearances. So, I'm a big proponent of, if you hit the age of, I say 60, and you're still focused on appearances and trying to please those around us, and versus, hey, maybe I want to be able to feel more comfortable in my own skin. I think those are two different things. Muscle mass is going to be the one that's going to make you feel more comfortable in your own skin, but also give you lots of function. It's going to give you the ability to get up and down off the floor, play with grandkids, you know, do all these things that we want to do, you know, go hiking on a trip, you know, not feel exhausted by the time, you know, we're, you know, a quarter of a mile into our walk. You guys are doing great with your 5 miles a day, but I know everybody has a little different time and a little different strategy. And so I would just encourage you, if you're in that place where you're still, you know, maybe you're beyond that age of 60 and you're still saying, ah man, I really, you know, I want that beach body. I would encourage you to think of things differently than you maybe once did, and think of how much muscle can I put on to extend my lifespan, to extend the span of time I don't have to have somebody helping me move around the house or go to the bathroom or bathe, because that's what matters at this point. And so I think it's something that I harp on it all the time with clients, even clients in their 50s. I'm trying to start that mindset shift of, you know, let's get into what matters for the next 30, 40, 50 years of your life, and, you know, move away from trying to appear thin, because that constant need to try to appear thin is what leads, and I've seen it in so many of my clients, it's what leads women to, especially women, to lose that bone density and put themselves at risk. And so that's what I would encourage you to focus on as age comes on, is, hey, let's focus on muscle mass, let's focus on strength, endurance, and if we can do that, a lot of good things happen. Good things happen for your appearance too. I just had, Susie and I just had a conversation with a former client of mine who was talking about building strength and losing, you know, some of the loose skin in her arms. It's not because she was focusing on losing weight, it's because she was focusing on building strength in her arms, and that built muscle, and now she's getting some definition, where, you know, I think this is a region that a lot of people deal with loose skin and not feeling as comfortable in their skin when it comes to some of those regions. And so that was a good example, just an hour ago, of, yeah, that mindset shift helps with the other. So, see if we have anything else. I don't. All right.
Where's the cake and ice cream slide?
Talk about moderation, right? I think I'm always encouraging, you know, my clients to find a balance, right? One strategy that I think most people that utilize it find it really effective. Instead of, hey, we're having dessert for dinner every night, maybe it's, I'm gonna treat myself to, you know, this treat this week, and have something that you're looking forward to each week, or, you know, how you can take that to whatever degree you want. You know, maybe it's a smaller something every day, or maybe it's, you know, something significant every week, or less frequently. Whatever works, whatever you find works for you. So I'm gonna just move past that, and anybody, if there are any slides that people want to go back to, please let me know. Happy to do that. Any other questions that come up?
Is it possible to actually get in an email with the slides?
Absolutely. I'll get your email.
Because I would rather than I was taking notes, however, being able to actually see.
Yeah.
I know you recorded the session.
Yeah, I'll get your email. I can send you the slides and the recording with you.
Thank
Where does Boost and Ensure fit in there?
you.
Yeah, so Boost and Ensure are both going to be like protein shakes, a form of like protein supplement. I think most of them also have like a a lot of calcium in them, a good amount. I don't know which ones have iron, but I would guess they're gonna have iron and probably some vitamins in there as well. So Boost and Ensure are gonna be a good, you know, supplementary, like we talked about. If you're needing more protein or if you're needing more of those vitamins, both of those are gonna be potential options to, if appetite is a problem, you know, drinking your calories rather than, or drinking your, you know, protein rather than eating it. So they're great options for doing that.
Now, those tend to be more dairy?
Yes,
So
they're gonna be
there's
dairy based.
fruit one, because I'm lactose intolerant, so I can't do dairy, but
Yes.
there's fruit versions of those, right? Where you can get the same amount of protein and stuff from a fruit version of Ensure or Boost.
My guess, I don't know about those companies in particular,
Okay.
but I know there are plenty. So the type of protein that's in
Yeah.
dairy products is whey protein. That's the so WHEY. That's the type of protein that's coming from milk in the dairy. And so there's lots of other types of protein. Pea protein is a very common one from peas. So that's also a good protein source if you're eating peas as a vegetable. Like that's a pretty decent protein source. I know it can be. Some people have a little bit of digestive trouble with peas, but that is one that is a good option. And you can find protein shakes, protein powders that are pea protein. There's others as well. There's lots of them. So it's just about digging around a little bit. So, yes.
So many good suggestions on how to keep, not get food, vegetables and fruit that have pesticides on them. You got to eat
Yeah.
cleaner.
It's hard. If you're getting them from a grocery store, odds are they're probably going to have those things on them. I mean, the easiest recommendation is, you know, if you grow your own food or you know somebody who does, that's great. We have good local farmers markets. That's another option. I know it's more expensive than your grocery store option, and that's a piece of that. I think also just washing your fruits and vegetables when you get them is a good way to help with that. You know, there are some, depending on where you go, you might be able to see, hey, this was grown without X, Y, and Z on the label. I have a hard time with, okay, the thing that's in a label probably has spent more time in plastics, which is just as harmful to you as, you know, some of the other chemicals that are sprayed on it after you've washed them. And so then I say, okay, is it worth buying one or the other? Not really. Your body's still going to benefit. And I think there's a lot of fear around some of those things. And I think it's a little bit overblown fear.
I've been trying to soak them vegetables and fruit that I'm not too sure about.
Yeah.
In baking soda and some cold water. This about 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But and then you rinse them. But I was wondering if you had any other suggestions about that.
Yeah. There's not a ton of, you know, that's a good method, and that's one, you know, I've heard of. I don't use it personally, but if you have the time to do that, that's great. There's not going to be a ton of method. Vinegar is, you know, pickling things is a good way to get those things out, and you know, and you do get the added benefit of vinegar does have health benefits, but then you end up eating everything pickled, and so that's, you know, that's a taste thing as well.
Does an organic label, can that be trusted?
Yes, I mean it can be trusted that it is organic, yeah, and it's one of those things that I think it's not something I personally would focus on. It's the difference between, or the conversation I have is like, what's a big rock in terms of, all right, what are the things that are going to move the needle more for you? The question of whether it's got pesticides or whether it's organic is a little rock. It's a small smaller thing that the bigger, more important thing is, okay, do I have all my vitamins and minerals, and am I getting adequate protein intake? Really those two, when it comes to nutrition, if we're doing those two things, then, and doing them consistently, then I'm worrying about some of the smaller things. But if I'm really not hitting those two things consistently, and with good, knowledge around it, then I'm less likely to spend time on those things. But yes, organic label is something that can be trusted. Again, FDA, that's regulated.
One of the things you talked about was vitamin D, and I was very surprised when I went to my doctor and had blood work done. And one of the things showed up was my vitamin D was actually low. Well, I'm somebody who's outside all the time.
Yeah.
We walk usually 5 miles a day, and of course then you're getting it in your food. So I have started with the supplement because that's the only way you get it, really. I mean, you can get it in your foods, but I was already thinking I was doing that.
Yeah.
So you do have to really, and when you get your blood work done, I really like having my chart because I can go in there, I can look at it myself, I can pick it apart, I can see what I really need to do, and then start with taking the vitamins because it really does make a difference.
Yeah. Absolutely. What have you noticed in taking that supplement, just in how you feel?
Well, you take that, you feel better. You almost instantly feel better when you start taking the supplement, which is surprising because you think you're okay to begin with. You're already taking a multivitamin, and you think, okay, that'll do it. But that doesn't, just because you take it, doesn't mean it's really getting you where you need to be. So once I started taking that, it's a whole big difference.
Yeah,
You do feel better. Plus, one of the things that I recommend personally is I think every woman should lift some type of weight every day. I think and you talked about getting rid of the wings, works perfect, but I just think you need to keep those bones healthy.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That is a major factor when it comes to healthy bones. I think we talked about it last time. The concept of Wolff's Law. Wolff's Law essentially is this principle within the body that says your body will build tissues around based on the forces that you place upon it. So in order for you to build muscle, in order for bone density to increase, you have to place forces on it. You have to exercise. Specifically, I recommend a mixture of weightlifting, resistance training, and cardiovascular training. Both of those, are going to be, they pair well together, but particularly for bone health, the weightlifting is what is very helpful. So.
Made a big difference.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and you brought up a good point that I want to talk about real quick. The interactions between different vitamins, and just because you're outside doesn't mean that we have, if you're outside a lot, doesn't mean you're naturally gonna, so your body creates some of the vitamins and minerals naturally. We call them essential versus non-essential, right? Essential are things that let me make sure I get this right. I'm pretty sure essential are the things that you do not create, which means they're essential to get into your diet, right? The non-essential, the things that you do create. Fact check me on that.
Okay.
Yeah, Susie's got it. But there are interactions between how your body's able to create them. Vitamin D is one of those. Particularly vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin K, and iron. If those are not all present in the right amounts in your body then does not create enough of them in response to sunlight.
Right.
So, another, specifically if vitamin D is low and I'm getting enough sunlight, and I know that, vitamin C is something that you need to make sure you're getting enough of, because that's what helps us to be able to create vitamin D in the body. So there's a little bit of interaction between them. You might be doing the things that, hey, I'm getting plenty of sunlight, I don't have enough vitamin D, Well, it might be a vitamin C deficiency slightly, that you might be on what would be the low end of vitamin C that they don't really test for. Yeah, I don't believe that that would be on your my chart. And if, yes,
You're right. Organic nutrients needed in small amounts that are crucial for the body's proper functioning, but cannot be synthesized by the body in sufficient quantities.
so those are essential.
Those are the essentials.
Okay, so I was
So
correct.
you might,
All
your
right.
body might synthesize some of it, but not enough to.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
And then another, I'm sorry to interrupt,
That's
but
okay.
another thing is they say use in sunscreens. That was another thing the doctor says, oh, if you use sunscreen, you're not gonna produce enough anyway.
Yeah, sunscreen's helpful to prevent skin cancer, but also might interfere with some of the body's processes. It's one of those things. If you feel better protected and your doctor's telling you to use it, use it. If your doctor's telling you not to use it, maybe don't. I'm not going to talk about the sunscreen specific, but there's a lot of things that help us in one way that hurt us in another.
So you're talking about vitamin D, but there's also vitamin D3.
Yes.
Because I do Nature Made has a great super C that includes vitamin D3 and zinc.
Yeah.
And that's something I take every day, but what's the difference between just regular D and D3?
Off the top of my head, I actually don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be something to talk about with your doctor.
Okay.
You know what? I'm gonna look that up because that's intriguing to me.
Yeah, and the fact that it's just called super C
Yeah.
and it has D3 and zinc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And my spouse and I started taking that one during COVID, and we got COVID.
Right.
So during the healing, the process of point, and I was reading and it said, so you want to have more of the D3 and the zinc, so now we just do the
Yeah.
super C every day, a tablet of the super C. This is Nature Made product.
Yeah. So D3, it might be that it's like a isotope of that, or some different like chemical configuration of vitamin D in our body, and so that our body produces, and I'm guessing that relates to vitamin C in our body. So you gave me something to go look up and learn. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned creatine.
Yes.
I've not ever heard of that.
No.
Okay.
So is that a supplement? Is that a powder?
It's a supplement.
Okay,
Usually comes in a powder.
okay,
Our body does make some of it naturally.
okay,
So it's a supplement of something we already have in our body,
okay.
just a slightly different form.
Mhm.
What I look for, the bottle is going to say creatine monohydrate. That's the specific name for the supplement, and that's, it usually comes in a white powder. Usually there's a tiny, little tiny scoop that it comes with.
What do you mix it with?
You can mix it with water. I make smoothies, and so I don't even taste it or notice.
Okay,
It's usually tasteless,
Okay.
but it has a texture to it, so I mix it in the smoothie and that goes away.
okay.
So, and I personally, I make smoothies. The way I make a smoothie, it's like, I like fruit smoothies, and so I'll do fruit smoothie, a fruity type of protein powder, and then creatine with that as well. Mix it all together, and I've hit a lot of my bases for the day. So, that's a great question. Any questions?
The problem with smoothies though, is I've gotten older. I like to chew,
Okay.
and I don't think a smoothie satisfies that chewing need to satisfy everything.
That's-
So now I've wasted all of that, my calories,
Mhm.
my protein and everything, and I haven't gotten it to be satisfied.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't do
you're
a
saying
lot
you
of
feel
smoothies.
less full?
Yeah, well, I just feel less satisfied. So yeah, maybe that's fullness too.
Yeah. Satisfied kind of pairs with it,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. That's if you're somebody who you enjoy.
I like to chew. I like that feeling in my mouth.
Yeah. So a lot of the things we talk about, the creatine, the protein powders, they can be mixed with, milk or water, and so If you're not wanting to do smoothies, don't do smoothies.
Put it in the cake icing.
Do what?
Put it in the cake icing.
There you go. There you go. That's a good way to do it. Good way to think about it.
So yeah, it doesn't all work for everybody.
No,
I think
and
that's
that's-
the main thing.
That's a great thing. Like you have to find what works for you. What I eat for breakfast every day is not going to be the same thing as what anyone else here eats, for breakfast every day. I like to give people a sample just to see, hey, this is what it might look like. But you have to find what works for you, what you can tolerate, what you can, what can help you move the needle for your health that you can also enjoy, because food should be enjoyed, right? There's many foods out there that are delicious. So, do we have another question here?
No, but I just wanted to say about organic produce, the Waynesboro Farmers Market starts the second weekend of May.
There you go.
And there's at least 2 or 3 different vendors there that have the organic produce. It's always so fresh. So I'm just putting that out there. I know the Harrisonburg, because you said you were going to Harrisonburg.
Yeah.
You said that the Harrisonburg Farmers Market is year round.
Yeah, I live just down the street, but
Yeah.
I head up to Harrisonburg periodically.
Yeah, and then there's a stand in the winter market, but the Waynesboro Farmers Market,
Mhm.
for those of us who are local,
There you go.
promote that.
Perfect.
And it's nice because you feel like you're buying local.
Well, and it's the way Project Rose is doing a great job of managing that market. And,
And Willie's is open now.
they are. And their ice cream, first ice cream one was maple ice cream.
Nice.
Last week
Gosh,
was
you did
maple.
too.
There you go.
It's maple, we noticed this morning.
Yep.
I'd be remiss in a nutrition talk if we didn't talk about the local ice cream shop.
There's 2 of them. Climbs and.
We don't go to Klein's as much, but because you see everybody at Willie's, after you go to Willie's, you might as well expect to meet half your neighbors.
That's fair. Any other questions we can answer for you guys? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys all for coming. I want to touch base with the